The ancient tractor sputtered and died right at the edge of James Turner's property line. As the sun dipped low over the fading fields, James approached the stalled vehicle with a worn toolbox in hand. His weathered fingers got to work on the rusted engine, completely unaware that the stranger quietly observing him wasn't just some wayward traveler. She was Veronica Hale, a billionaire philanthropist who had just acquired the long-defunct paper mill outside of Bramble Creek. Her smile deepened as she watched him work, already envisioning the signature on the check she planned to write. She hadn't come to Bramble Creek by accident. This farm, this Manthe were all part of a plan already unfolding. The setting sun stretched long shadows across the land that had once thrived under generations of Turners. James wiped his brow with a dirt-streaked sleeve, frustration weighing heavily on his lean frame. His irrigation lines had burst again, scorching half his cornfield under the ruthless summer heat. At 44, every new wrinkle carved into his face echoed a season of loss, another inch toward foreclosure. Parked at the edge of the road was his battered pickup, a once-red 1991 Dodge whose color had faded into rust. The antenna was patched with tape, the mirror held with wire, and the whole thing operated on stubborn faith. As he loaded his tools into the bed, James noticed a plume of dust approaching from the back road. Curious, he squinted until the outline of a vintage tractor emerged, coughing out black smoke before finally giving up with a desperate wheeze. A woman climbed down from the seat, her wide-brimmed hat obscuring her face. She kicked at the tire, muttered something he couldn't hear, and started fiddling with the engine. James considered returning to his own problems, a broken fence, pending paperwork from the bank, but he heard his late father's voice echoing in his head, "We help our neighbors. That's what Turners do." That voice got him moving. He made his way to the tractor. The woman turned and lifted her hat. She was older, likely in her late 50s, with striking silver-streaked hair and sharp eyes that carried the weight of decisions and distance. Her clothing was practical yet refined. Sturdy boots, well-fitted jeans, and a rolled-sleeve chambray shirt. She definitely wasn't from Bramble Creek, but she wasn't entirely out of place either. "Need a hand?" James asked, setting his toolbox down. "You could say that," she replied, her voice warm and even. "This girl decided she's done for today." James bent to inspect the engine. It was a 1953 Oliver Super 55, a model he'd only seen at farm shows. Surprisingly well-maintained. "I'm James Turner," he said as he got to work. "Veronica Hale," she answered, extending a sun-spotted but confident hand. "This land reminds me of where I grew up." James worked silently for a bit, then diagnosed the issue. Clogged fuel lines and an out-of-sync timing system. "I can fix it well enough to get it to my barn," he offered. "It's not far. You can stay the night." She considered. "I'd appreciate that. Adelaide here belonged to my grandfather. I hate leaving her." Soon, the tractor sputtered back to life under James' patched repairs. He led the way to his barn, where they parked Adelaide beside James' own ancient Massey Ferguson, known locally as Lazarus for its uncanny ability to return from the dead. As night fell, Veronica marveled at the barn's practical clutter. "This is history," she said, eyeing photos of James' family alongside old license plates and trophies from long-past harvest competitions. James made a modest dinner, stew and bread, both homemade. They sat at his oversized kitchen table, conversation flowing from crops to community. Veronica listened more than she spoke but offered questions that showed deep agricultural knowledge. "You sound like you know your way around a field," James remarked. "I do," she replied. "I grew up on one. Haven't lived on a farm in decades, but some things stick with you." The next morning, James found her already cooking breakfast. She fit into the kitchen like she'd lived there years. Together, they repaired the tractor more thoroughly. Veronica pointed out distributor issues that James confirmed. She couldn't handle tools with her stiffening hands, but she was a skilled assistant. He talked more that day than he had in years about the farm, the economy, the death of small towns like Bramble Creek. She listened with genuine interest. "You're one of the last independent farmers here," she observed. "Me, the Montoyas down the hill, and old Howard Buckley," James replied. "Everyone else either sold out or packed up." Veronica asked to see the rest of the property. They walked the fields, visited the cows, past crumbling fences. She knelt to touch the soil and nodded approvingly. "Good earth," she said. "Just thirsty." That evening, as the sun painted the sky, she asked, "What would you do if money wasn't an issue?" James hesitated. Modern irrigation. Soil treatment. Better equipment. Maybe expand the dairy side. Diversify. Solar panels on the roof. Not just to survive, but to build something again. Veronica nodded, saying nothing more. The next morning, she announced she needed to visit town. James offered to drive her. Together they toured Bramble Creek, now more ghost than town. Empty storefronts. A crumbling courthouse. The mill building 4 stories of red brick, dark and hollow. That's where everyone used to work, James said. 300 jobs gone in a day. Veronica's eyes scanned the building. She took photos. Measured things. Asked about zoning, workforce, history. Back at the farm that night, she made more calls, her voice low and purposeful as she paced the driveway. For days later, she returned in a luxury SUV, dressed in a blazer and slacks. With her was Marcus Dean, her chief of operations. Together they sat on James' porch and laid everything out. She wasn't just a lost traveler. Veronica Hale was the founder of Hale Sustainable Systems, a top agricultural tech firm. They were planning to buy the mill, convert it into a research center, bring 150 jobs, partner with local farmers. James would be their pilot site, offered a salary, full farm investment, profit sharing. Why me? He asked. Because you didn't ask who I was before helping, Veronica said. Because you understand the land, and you still believe in it. James took the offer to his lawyer. Maria Montoya and Howard Buckley received similar proposals. The town buzzed. Within weeks, irrigation crews arrived. Engineers installed soil sensors. The farmhouse got new wiring, the barn a new roof. The town council approved the mill sale. Mabel's diner went to 2 shifts. By harvest season, James' corn yields were up 20%, water usage down 40%. The dairy side expanded. The bank was paid off. New signs went up on old stores. On one crisp October morning, Veronica walked with James across his land. This, she said, gesturing toward the barn, the hills, the glowing town beyond, this is what it was always about. A legacy, not a line item, James replied. They shared dinner that night in the restored farmhouse. Outside, Bramble Creek pulsed with life again. And inside, in the warm kitchen, innovation and tradition sat side by side, sharing bread, sharing dreams. And it had all started with an old tractor, a broken fuel line, and one man who still believed in stopping to help a stranger.